Are you a hardworking local business owner striving for success online? There is help. Welcome to the SmarterLocal Marketing Podcast, featuring candid conversations and inspiring stories of online success. Now, here's your host.
Yes, this is James Martell, and I am your host for the SmarterLocal Marketing Podcast. And today I'm joined by Scott Gray, a local customer acquisition specialist and a partner here at SmarterLocal. And today we're going to be talking about motivating employee advocates to supercharge your internet marketing efforts. Now, before we dig in, just a quick invitation that if you happen to be listening to this episode on our website, YouTube channel, or a podcasting directory such as iTunes, I'd like to invite you to click the subscribe button to get on the fast track to attracting all of the local customers you'll ever need. Now, just quickly before Scott joins us, that if you would love to finally have in place a rock-solid internet marketing strategy for your business that provides you with an excellent ongoing return on investment, go ahead and reply to the email in which you received this podcast episode to arrange a free, no-obligation discovery call to discuss how a SmarterLocal marketing program can be custom-tailored to your specific needs, budget, and business. Again, simply reply to the email in which you received this podcast episode to arrange your free discovery call. So again, Scott Gray is a local customer acquisition specialist. He's located up in the greater Vancouver area of Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, and a partner here at SmarterLocal. Scott, how you doing today?
Excellent.
Good to have you on, and I think this is going to be a very interesting conversation. I know you and I kind of teed this up a little bit last week, and we've kind of bantered it back and forth, and it really lay a foundation for it. In these podcasting episodes and working with local business owners, you know it, I know it, we talk a lot about growing your email audience and why it's so advantageous to have, of course, the contact information for your customers, especially their email addresses, so you can reach out to them with special promos and offers. And we talk about growing a Facebook following using simple strategies, and we talk about how having an email audience and how having a good solid Facebook following gives you the opportunity to invite customers back over and over again, and all the stuff that we cover in the podcast. And I know sometimes it could be a little overwhelming for business owners. They're already busy as a bee. They're dealing with banking, staffing, inventory, taxes. I mean, just go down the list. They've got, if they're a restaurant or a pub, they've got inspections on food, fire. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. From time to time when we're talking with business owners, even those that have tried it in the past to really get into the internet marketing mindset and really establish an online presence for themselves, that even though they're very well-intentioned, they just don't have the time. And they find themselves basically stopping and starting and stopping and starting, and they really don't ever seem to get it going. And when you and I talked last week about a typical business owner, local business owner, typical, I don't mean that in a derogatory way, a local business owner, for the most part, already has staff. And what we want to talk about today, and brainstorm a little bit, because of course we don't have all the answers on this, but brainstorm some ideas about getting the staff involved to help boost and promote, supercharge, whatever word we want to put on it, the internet marketing efforts. And you and I put some really good ideas to paper, and I'm excited to talk about it. So why don't we dig into this whole idea? Let's start off first, if we could. In so many cases, we talk with local business owners that don't have the email list of their prospect. And I always like to say, imagine if you had a nice, clean list of all of your best customers that gave you permission to be able to promote to. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a money-making machine. If you can have their permission to contact them, then you can market to them over and over.
For one episode in particular, we talked about how to grow your email audience from 0 to 1,000 very quickly and very easily. And I'd like to maybe just touch upon that here, because I do also know that sometimes we say, okay, what if you had 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 of your best clients or your best customers that come through your door in a nice, neat and tidy little email list, with a simple system that you could type up a little offer and send it out to them anytime that you wanted, and that they'd actually given you permission to do so you don't have to worry about offending anybody or spam problems or anything like that. And if you were to send, and I'll ask them, if you were to send out 1,000 emails to your best customers with a nice little promotional offer, how do you think that would do? And then I just kind of wait for a moment and they explain. And we just figure out some percentages. Even if 2%, 4%, 5%, depending on the offer, it could be 10, 20% of the people could respond to it. And it just gets them back in the door. And you've probably heard the saying that it's 7 times easier to sell something else to an existing customer than to try and find a new customer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's way easier once they're a customer. It's way easier to sell to them again.
Yeah, and absolutely it is. And we see it a lot. I know with the little pub that we do business with, they've got an email list that we've helped them craft into around 1,500 people. And these are 1,500 people who have, for the most part, either been on the website and subscribed to what we call, in their particular case, the VIP club, or they have been in the pub. And this is where the majority of the names have come. And they filled out a little card that basically says, enter to win and to hear what's happening at Sawbuck's Pub. And then there's a place for their first name and their email address. And then on the flip side of the card, it says, join the Sawbuck's VIP Club and be entered to win every month to win dinner for 2, reserved VIP seating for bands, and other pub goodies and more. Please drop the complimentary card in the fishbowl located on the bar or give it to your server. And that's one of the things I want to talk about, the give it to your server, getting the staff involved. And there's all kinds of places that a customer or a client interfaces with the staff. I see it in the pub when they're doing a really good job, even take it on a sidebar. Where I first spotted this is when you're in there, if the girls are motivated, the servers are motivated, and they're talking with the patrons at the tables, I guess you call them patrons, they will say something, hey, have you heard this Saturday night we got a band coming in? And they're going to be great. They're called, here's their name, and they'll give a little quick 15-second promo for that band coming in on Saturday night. And if they're doing that all week, or maybe for the first couple of weeks beforehand, it has a huge impact on how many people show up. I think you would agree. It is worthwhile getting them involved.
Absolutely, yeah. It's one of the best things you can do is to get your staff involved.
They happen to be talking with the clients. So we were just kind of batting some ideas back and forth. So let's start off with, in fact, I'm going to flip this around. Let's talk about basically using live events. A lot of businesses host a seminar, or in the case of the pub that I'm talking about, a live band every couple of weeks, or maybe there's a St. Paddy's Day gathering, or any type of event where you're bringing people together. To me, that's the perfect opportunity to gather up the names and email addresses of your patrons. One of the things we talked about, and I'd like to encourage everybody to go have a listen to that episode with Jose Quiroz, who is also a SmarterLocal partner. He's based out of California, where we talked about how to grow your list from 0 to 1,000 fast. And here's one of the strategies that we talked about. In the case of the pub, they have Super Bowl every year, or we do Gain the Band every couple of weeks. What the owner will do is he'll put a little bucket of wine together, maybe 3 bottles of wine in a bucket. I don't know why it's a bucket, but it's a bucket. And they'll go around the whole pub and say, hey, we're going to do a draw for these 3 bottles of wine. And they'll give them the little card, which is to join the VIP club. You got to be on the VIP club to win. And they hand out all the cards to everybody in the pub. And they use those little pencils that they give with them, so everybody has so they can write their name and their email address. And then all those cards, after a while, they go back around, collect them all, put them all back into a fishbowl, and then they draw the name out of the fishbowl, and one person wins those 3 bottles of wine. And take a guess, Scott, how many email subscribers are typically gathered in that one little exercise? And it takes about maybe 20 minutes.
I would say probably 80-90% of the people in the bar would subscribe to the...
Yeah, you got it. Just about everybody takes it up. This bar happens to have a seating capacity on a band night or a busy night when it's packed. They'll have 160, 180 people in there. So at Super Bowl, over 200. And we'll walk out of there with 200 in that particular case, at least 200 new subscribers. Or, I mean, there are some duplicates. Let me rephrase that. There's some duplicates. But you'll have a nice big core group of 100 plus every time of new subscribers for the list. So it's simple to implement. And in that particular case, you could just get your staff involved. And if you think about it from a logistics point of view, I know you haven't done this in the pub, but let me just kind of toss it over to you. What collateral do you think we need to have to pull that off?
To get more subscribers, well, you need the staff doing the same thing all the time. So if you're in a dentist's office, you have to be doing the same thing all the time. So if someone comes in, then you need to ask them for their name and email, or you have to have some sort of giveaway where they're excited about putting their name and email in.
Yep.
Like you said before, a fishbowl works great.
I love the fishbowl. To me, I call it the magic fishbowl because you can use it for the live events, and you mentioned, a doctor's office, a chiropractor, or a dentist, naturopath, automotive shops, they're all over the place. Anybody, again, that has a reception desk, you could find yourself a nice little fishbowl, put a little card on it that says, enter to win whatever the prize is. Every business can come up with a nice little giveaway that's valuable to the person, so they want to win it. And they'll enter their name and their email address. We've got a beautiful little card, too, that we just get printed at Vistaprint. Very simple, very inexpensive, and that they fill out. They could also just tuck their business card in there, and that's giving you permission to actually email them. And then you've got the fishbowl on the counter. You've got a little sign on there that says what they're entering for, and then you've got the card sitting there with a pen. So I don't really think you need much more, do you?
I've seen it over and over that a little system like that works great. And then it's very simple, too, that people can do it really quickly.
The other thing you and I talked about that was kind of an interesting topic is why don't business owners do this more often? You see it with your clients. I see it with my clients. We get them to do it. In fact, I'll tell you what, I was talking to one of my clients yesterday who wanted to bail on the whole idea just because I don't even know why. And I'm like, okay, so let's go back to the beginning here. What I basically figured out is they didn't understand how valuable it is to have a list of clients to invite them back. And after I talked with him for a little bit, I was actually like, okay, let's talk about this for a second here. Because and I know if we have an email list, there's all kinds of things a business owner can do with that list, especially if they've been given permission. A lot of people want to be kept in touch with your business and they want to know what's going on. In this particular case, I was kind of digging in a little bit and I was explaining to him, okay, so here, let's go back to the beginning here. Let's say we had 1,000 people on your email list, and let's come up with some creative ways to get them on. It's not going to be that hard. In the case of, a chiropractor, we've got a client over on the island. He had a list of almost 1,000 patients in his database. They had their emails, but they were not sending out emails. They did not have an email software program to actually send them out. And we're talking with them, and he's very attentive. He's like, okay, I'm going to get my staff on this. We're going to pull all the emails out of there. We're going to get them imported into a SendPulse, which is email marketing software that we recommend. And he got on it, and they got it done, and they send out regular newsletters all the time. And it just took that little bit of an idea and a little bit of assertiveness to actually get it done. And then now he has the list. And now, as you said it, when you've got somebody behind the reception desk, and we've all been into a dentist, I hate to say it, or anywhere we're sending across from reception, if you've got a girl or a guy sitting there who's really friendly, and that's usually the type of person that's there, it's no big deal for them to say, hey, it's more of a habit than anything, to say, hey, why don't you, and then you hand them the card with a pen, and people will fill it out and put it in the bowl.
Yeah, exactly. It becomes a habit, right? If you do it over and over, then it becomes a habit, and you know exactly what you're doing. It gets easier and easier, and then and you're totally right. I've seen that before with people just don't realize, or business owners don't realize how powerful having a list is.
You bet, and that's pretty much our job to kind of convey that and remind them. Another example, let's go back to Sawbucks for a second here. When we started working with them, they had a grand total of 3 reviews. And I chuckle about it now because back then they had 3 reviews. 2 of them were very poor, and 1 of them was a good review. I recognize we got to get on top of this because reviews are highly important online these days. People look at reviews. But how do you build reviews? Reviews is a tough thing to do. Do you want to ask everybody as they go in and out the door? You can do that. You can get your staff to do that, and probably they could. But it's not really what I find that works. My strategy is really to get them to get their email address and then we can actually craft, and we have a beautiful email that we give to all of our clients that we program into what we call an autoresponder system, so that every 6 months, regardless of what's going on, as long as there's more emails being added into the system all the time, every 6 months, automatic email goes out to everybody on the list that's very nicely written, very professional, and it's from the owner, and it's asking them, first of all, it explains that in today's, I'm going to butcher it here, but in today's modern era, we rely on the internet to attract new customers, and it would be very helpful for us if you would take a moment and please leave us a review of how we're doing with a link, and then there's a link to where they can go do it on Google or Yelp, wherever you happen to be sending them. And we've grown that list of reviews from 3 to nearly 900 reviews. And it's not that it's been done in the pub at all. It's all been done by gathering up the email addresses and then periodic emails going out to that list. And then, of course, your good clients are going to leave you a review.
That shows you the power of the having a list, that you could do that, because without your list, you would have an extremely hard time getting 900 reviews.
You sure would. And that's just the reviews. Now, other things you can do, I know the doctor that we're referring to on the island, he does I think it's a monthly health seminar in his office on Saturday mornings. And guess how he invites the participants to come join him?
An email.
Of course. And that's the other thing with email, is it doesn't cost anything to send an email. So if you had to package this up, let's go back to the number of 1,000. If you had to send out 1,000 snail mails, letters, put them in the envelope, put a stamp on it, address it, and mail it. I don't even know what that would cost anymore, but it would probably at least a couple bucks a piece. So you're looking at a couple $1,000 just to send it out, which is crazy when you can actually just have their email address and pop that off. The other thing, Scott, if you have that list, I know a lot of businesses have slower times, and you work with clients. So if somebody has a slow period, let's say, the pub is slow some evenings, or something just goes flat and there's just not enough people, you can put a little promo together, pop it off to your list, and invite them down right now. I don't know any other way you can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I have an automotive client, and there's certain times of the year that the shop is dead. Christmas time might be an example. Everybody's busy, so he emails out specials that time of the year, and then people take advantage of it, and then he's got people come in to get some work done on their cars.
That email platform that I mentioned earlier, you had a chance to just study up on that a little bit, listening to one of the episodes with Roy Weissman, who talked about SendPulse, because one of the key components of this, and supercharging your internet marketing efforts by getting employee advocates involved, somebody needs to learn how to manage that little piece of software. And it's not complicated, but there are some tutorials that need to be gone through. And then, of course, the names and email addresses need to either be uploaded through a spreadsheet or entered manually, however it's going to be done. Great job for an employee who maybe has some quiet time to take that task on. But you had a chance to listen to some of the features of that piece of software. And let me preface it by saying it's free, and it's free to local business owners who can use this software for up to 2,500 subscribers. No charge at all, no hidden gotchas, no credit card needed, nothing. You can just use it until you hit 2,500 subscribers. And most local business owners, if you had 2,500 people on your email list, you would be thrilled. And then if you do need to upgrade, it's $9.95 a month. So let's put the cost aside. It's not a big deal. But you've got many, many, many years working online and working in the internet marketing space. And we've typically been using software like Aweber, which is a great little program. But what do you think of SendPulse?
Yeah, I think it's a really cool product. Actually, I've used Aweber quite a bit, and SendPulse is like taking email marketing to the next level. I like the idea of having text message as well. So you get a text message saying we just sent you an email, about our Sawbox, for instance. We got a live band tomorrow night. You can come and join us if you want. So it sends you a text message reminding you about that. We sent you an email with all the descriptions, and that's pretty cool. I really like that. And I like the multiple emailing feature, where if you don't answer the email, it'll resend the email a day or two later. That
one, let's slow down and talk about that for a sec, because that is amazing. So imagine now you've got 1,000 people on your email list, or 2,000, 3,000, whatever it is, and you craft up a nice little message to them all, and you do a great subject line, and then you can schedule it to go out whenever you'd like, or you can just push the button and send it right now, and off it goes. And out of that 1,000, let's say you get a 20% open rate. So 20%, that's 200 people are now reading your message. But 80% of them didn't open it, didn't even see the message. So what SendPulse does, which I think is brilliant, is it knows the 80 that didn't open the email, and you've created an alternate subject line, and it will now resend the email with a new subject line to the 80% who didn't open it. And you know, Scott, you've had experience, lots of experience in this with online marketing, and how important that second follow-up email is.
Oh yeah, it's the most important email because people forget, and they tell themselves they'll get back to the original email. They might see it, and then they say, "Oh, I'll get back to that later," and then they forget, and then all of a sudden they get another email reminding them, and they say, "Hey, better kind of deal with this now before I forget again." So the second email is so powerful.
Did you see the feature in there as well called push notification?
Yeah, I did see that. It's pretty cool too, actually. So it's a pretty cool program, that SendPulse.
Yeah, I like it. And I think everybody's probably started to see when you go visit. So imagine on your website, so let's say Sawbucks or on to one of our listeners' websites, somebody goes to your website and a little box, very top left-hand corner, pops open. It says, would you like to be notified of updates? So they don't need to enter their email address. They don't need to do anything. They just go, okay. So it's very easy entry. And then with push notifications, you set it up in the back of SendPulse. You can upload a little photo or your logo and a little offer. And then let's go back to the band idea again. Saturday noon, you could put a little message. Hey, don't forget, we've got a live band tonight. March Hare's in town, backed by popular demand. We got prime rib dinner starting at 5 p.m. for $15.95. If you're looking for a great Saturday night, come on down. Be sure to arrive early to avoid the lines. Boom. You type that into the little box, you hit the button, and everybody who's subscribed to push notifications, down in the bottom right-hand corner of their computer or their mobile device, automatic your logo pops up with the little promo that you just typed in, and they're automatically alerted. And they have to see it because it pops up on their computer, so they can see it right at a glance, and then, of course, they close it. But now you've notified them of whatever promo or offer or special you got on the go, and they haven't had to open up their email address. They haven't had to do anything. I think it's such a cool feature that I think everybody should be using it.
Yeah, I agree. That's a really cool feature. That's just the power of your list again, and taking it to the next level is so powerful to have a reminder like that.
Sure is. So let's kind of begin to wrap this up and talk about motivating the employees, like employee advocates, people, brand ambassadors, people who work for you already, to getting them involved with encouraging people to come back, encouraging people to fill out the little card and enter the draw to get in the VIP list, or whatever you want to, however you want to package it, just to get them behind it, to get them somebody taking care of the SendPulse system, so you don't have to do it yourself. That John, he's already the guy that's got more of the tech mind, and he knows these interfaces, and he's the guy on his phone all the time. Why don't you task him with the job of getting to know SendPulse? Just go to sendpulse.com, sign up for a free account. Doesn't even need a credit card. There's great tutorials in there on how to run it. They're not long. It's easy to use. Just basically passing that over on to somebody. How long would you think it would take somebody to learn how to run and manage the SendPulse system? I know you haven't really been in there much yet, but it's very similar to Aweber. So how long do you think it would take you to learn SendPulse?
Yeah, well, I have been in there, and one thing I noticed how easy it was to learn, and the little tutorials they have are really helpful. I'm not sure how long it would take to learn. If that was your job, just to learn that, you could get it done fairly quickly, and if you didn't have any other tasks to do. But if you just concentrate on learning how to do it, you could do it pretty quickly.
Absolutely. So then some takeaways. So, of course, there's a plan. We need a plan in place, and I would recommend starting small. I call them baby steps. The old saying, don't try to eat the whole elephant in one bite. And basically buy into the idea. Again, maybe you've been there before and you kind of slid away. Be deliberate, be intentional on getting your staff involved, getting a plan in place. And I would recommend beginning with emails. We go through all the episodes on the Smarter Local Marketing Podcast, I'd say at least 25% of them are about email. And to me, email, because it's free to send, because it's relatively easy to gather, it's still by far the number one marketing strategy on the internet. Get rid of everything else. If you look at the statistics, email kills everything else comparably as a marketing strategy. And then basically setting aside some time for getting your staff on board, get them up to date, get some tasks assigned, get some goals in place. Let's see, how long is it going to take you to get your first 1,000 subscribers into the SendPulse system so that you now can communicate with them? And then getting organized with, things like, when you talk about that, getting organized, just taking the time to get organized as far as fish bowls or whatever they need to do, whatever they're planning on doing.
Yeah, you got to come up with a plan and then organize that with your staff, I would think, is the most important thing. So everybody is doing the same thing. So if you're organized in that aspect, then it makes it a lot easier.
Also, if you happen to have a business that happens to be like a pub or where you've got servers or maybe an oil change shop where you've got employees who are all day long dealing one-on-one with a client or a customer, give them the incentive to get the name and email address of those clients, oil change shop, anybody where you're dealing with repeat or want to be dealing with more repeat customers. If you were to get a little card created, in fact, I'll put a picture of the card that I'm talking about in the show notes. We provided and set it all up for you in Vistaprint if you're a client of ours. But you could put an employee on it, recreate the card in Vistaprint, and order yourself up, 1,000 of these little white business cards, very inexpensive, as we all know. Get that organized, but then put a little contest together for them. Get the staff working for something that if they get so many people into the fishbowl, you do a draw for a nice prize for the winner, or if they get to 100 in the month or 200, you give them a special prize of some sort. And it'd be easy to track because let's say it was an oil change. Literally, they could hand the card and the pen while you're sitting in the car and your oil change is being done. And they could be filling that out. They could tell them a little bit about it, a little bit about the little contest that you're running for your next oil change could be free, something like that. And then once they send it back, they could just put their initials on the back of the card so you know which employee actually had that card filled out. It could go into the fishbowl. End of the month, you draw for the client. And then you send off you're a winner in the email that goes out to everybody. So in the SendPulse system, you go in and say, okay, this month's winner of a free oil change is ... That's your subject line. Then they got to open up the email, and then you list the person that won. And that gives everybody who's on the list the incentive to open up that email. You're touching base with them again. And then you also know at the end, you can just go through the cards at the end of the month, and whoever got the most cards into the fishbowl that month gets a great little prize. And it's highly valuable to you, the business owner, because you're building your list and your audience that you could be marketing to over and over and over again for months and years to come.
I think that's a great idea, actually, having a contest for your employees as well. So that gives them motivation to do that, to ask the customers to join your mailing list.
Would you wrap this up for us and just give listeners a little bit of encouragement? Of course, they're busy as bees. We know that. Sometimes we're trying to keep our head above water. We're trying to just keep things going. And the last thing we need to do is add another task to our already busy list. But this is one of those areas that's so worthwhile in getting your head around and getting underway. So if you could just, give a little shout, a little encouragement to those business owners that see that this is a good idea, but not quite sure, give them a little nudge.
Yeah, just have fun. There's lots of different ways of doing this. So if you make it a fun thing to do, then, it's going to be that much more powerful, and then you'll build your list in no time. Make it simple. Make it very simple, right? Because if the more complicated it is, then people aren't going to do it. So if it's simple and fun, then you'll have great results.
I so agree. It's such a great place to start with the email, because later on then you can start to build up your reviews. You can start to invite more people over to your Facebook page to like and follow you there. It just basically opens up the world for you because you've organized a mode of communication with your customers that you never once had. And it's one that's not expensive to reach out to them. It just takes a little time to craft up a little message. And once you get good at it, it's fast. And then you just push the button, and your marketing is so greatly improved. So, Scott, I want to thank you for joining us today. It's been great. Your input has been awesome.
Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
We are out of time. Now, if what we talked about here today makes sense, and maybe you would like a little assistance in this area, we are always here to help. And all you need to do is simply reply to the email in which you received this podcast episode to arrange your free, no obligation, 30-minute discovery call. And I will tell you the call's fun. I would encourage you to get on it with us if we've tweaked your imagination at all. And it's a brainstorming session, 30 minutes, no obligation. If nothing else, you'll walk away with some great ideas and a little bit of advice from us on what to do. It'll also give us, if you'd like, the opportunity to have a little bit of a look at your business to see if we can see some ways that we can help bring more customers and clients through your door. So again, simply reply to the email in which you received this podcast episode to arrange your free, no obligation, 30-minute discovery call. Love to talk to you. Please do reach out. And before we go, if you would like to attract all of the local customers you ever need, and if you like this episode, why don't you take a moment and again, just hit that subscribe button. If you happen to be on our YouTube channel or our website or within one of the podcasting directories, all you need to do is hit the subscribe channel and you'll be alerted each week to new episodes of the Smarter Local Marketing Podcast. Finally, if you enjoyed this episode and know a friend or an associate or an employee or staff member who would benefit from what we talked about here today, be a great way to get them on side, by the way, to just have them listen to this episode, get them to buy into the idea, then please do pass this episode on to them. I'm sure they will thank you for it. Scott, thanks again, and to our listeners, thanks for listening to another edition of the Smarter Local Marketing Podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Smarter Local Marketing Podcast. If you would love to finally have in place a rock-solid internet marketing strategy that provides you with an excellent ongoing return on investment, then go ahead and reply to the email in which you received this podcast episode to arrange a free, no-obligation 30-minute consultation to discuss how a smarter local marketing program can be tailored to your specific needs and business. Again, simply reply to the email in which you received this podcast episode to arrange your free, no-obligation 30-minute consultation.
Right outside with my guitar in my hands and the notes became a loud as a sound caressed the air and I kicked it up a notch as a stroke.